I need some business therapy, Dave.
All right.
So, okay. So I have my coaching business and I'm talking to more and more people. And one of the things that comes up all the time is risk tolerance. How much risk should I take? How much risk? And the way it usually comes up is, oh, I've read all your stuff or read a bunch of stuff. And it seems like you take risks all the time. And it kind of set me back a bit because I feel responsible, for obviously for the advice I give these clients. So I want to have a discussion and talk about like what are acceptable, and maybe I don't know that we can narrow it down because maybe it's different for everybody, but I would love to have like a grading scale of acceptable risks based on a couple things. It's not just age. It's also the cycle of your life that you're in. Right.
Yeah. I would say it's more the cycle of your life than your age. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I have taken a lot of risk, but at some point I stopped taking wipeout risk. Right. So that's like the high. Let's start there. Okay. That's the highest level of risk, meaning that if you do some deal and that deal went sideways, you're done. The only way out is to like declare bankruptcy or something like that, which sounds horrific to me. Yeah. So
I know people who have done that and
me too.
Wildly succeeded, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they learned that what they thought was wipeout risk is not. I equate that, and this has been true for me with every amount of risk that I've taken, but I'm going to talk about it on the pain scale. You have that 1 to 10 pain scale?
Yeah.
I used to fill out things like 8s or 9s or whatever because, you think you know where 10 is. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I fell on the ice. Long story short, a doctor that was treating me actually wound up hurting me more than they were treating me and bruised my diaphragm.
Ooh.
Shannon.
That sounds bad, dude.
I had to cough, like just sitting on my couch. I had to cough or sneeze. I think it was cough. And I knew that my body was either going to pass out or I was going to vomit. And I wasn't going to get a choice in this, but this is what was going to happen to me when I coughed because of how much this hurt. It turns out, it's fine. It turns out neither of those things happened. I made it through. And what that told me in that moment, my pain scale completely reoriented. I still don't know where 10 is. I also know that anything that I had put in the past as a 7, 8, or 9 was also incorrect. Those were all 4s.
That's a good point.
And now I even treat pain differently. Like that moment changed my brain. And the same thing has happened with risk.
Yep.
I would go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would agree. No, I mean, I made $1 million mistake. I've talked about it here on the show a bunch of times, and I've learned a ton. At the time, when I was going through it, I didn't know how I was going to recover from it, but I was determined to recover. So I understand that concept, and it's like this scale of 1 to 10 is the same with risk, right?
And that's what I'm saying, and I think you need to recalibrate it regularly.
Okay, so I like that. I mean, if it happens, something happens, you'll figure it out. You're gonna get through it, right? Yep. Because I would argue that, and my good friend who was my attorney at the time, he had always told me, I had a lot of success early on, and he said, "Hey, just watch out because I don't know a single wealthy person that has not lost it and made some big mistake." And I would agree. And I've been there. But what do you tell somebody that's like, and this is how I've handled it. I always push back and say, your risk tolerance, I can't tell you what that is, right? Yep. Because I don't know your specific situation. But if we have a person that's like, let's say in their early 30s and they have a young family and they've left their corporate job and they've got some money and they've invested it to either start a business or they want to buy a business. Like I mean, I had a client that, was leaning in hard to buy this business that I thought was horrible and wasn't worth half of what they were going to pay for it. And I was like, maybe this discussion is more about your responsibility as an advisor than you're teaching someone's risk tolerance, because I don't know how to separate out when they're asking my advice, even though I'm telling them that's nuts. But what if I'm telling them, hey, it looks pretty good. Da, 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 da. We've looked at the numbers. You're responsible. You're interjecting.
At some level, yes.
At some level, you're bringing risk into their life, right? If you're advising them,
you're supporting a decision. Yes. That's
so,
right. Yep.
I'm going to develop this. I'm going to have a test that I can give someone that says, answer these questions, and you've seen it before. This kind of risk tolerance. You're answering these questions. This is going to tell me what your risk tolerance is, and based on that, if your risk tolerance is a 5, let's say, and you bring a deal to me and you want me to analyze it for you, I'm going to base it based on this risk tolerance. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But you don't have a risk tolerance of 8. You've got a 5.
Yeah.
This is not a 5. This deal is not a 5. And I don't know. Maybe that's the way to do it.
You're figuring what you're doing to mix all these metaphors here.
Yes.
Is you're figuring out where their 10, if it's a 1 to 10 scale, you're figuring out where 10 currently is their 10.
For them. Yes.
As it relates to your scale. Right?
Yeah, because my scale's crazy. My scale is
different.
Off the charts. Yeah.
I guarantee you, we both know people who would look at your scale and say, okay, this guy's 10 is a 6 for me.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, or 3. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Right, and that's okay. Right? But,
yes.
Now at least you framed it, and I think if I were in your shoes as the coach, I would tell them where their 10 is versus your 10, and make it clear that your 10 is not some billionaire's 10 or whatever.
Yes,
Whatever.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
whatever.
Matter. Yeah. Well, I'm going to
let them. But at least it lets you
them
make decisions.
Yes, I'm talking this through, which is great, and this is just what business therapy is. Because good therapists say, "Well, what do you think about that? Or how do you feel about that?"
Exactly.
That's right, and then you pay them. But so if I develop this, 10 questions or 5 question thing that basically, I'm sure I could have AI help me do this.
Yeah, I assume you will.
Yes. Answer these questions, and we're going to come up with what's your risk? What's the scale that you use? What's risky according to you? Then I can use that as a gauge when they're asking me to advise them on specific scenarios. Does that make sense?
It does. And I would say, as the coach here, give them the test again certainly every year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because things are going to change.
It will change as you build confidence.
Yes.
Right.
Just
your
like
risk.
Just like with my pain, where at my scale recalibrated, I remember a moment where my risk scale recalibrated. We needed, and I know I've told this story to you before, and I'm pretty sure it's been here on this show. We joined comms